Unspoken Issues.
Rock and roll. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Unspoken Issues podcast. And this go round, by golly, we are heading into DC circa 1992. This is called Panic in the Sky. So we got a great epic story here that's taking place throughout Action Comics, the Superman comics. Now, I did not propose this one. This one was a Dean Compton's especial. That's right. So, Dean, welcome back, of course, to the Unspoken Issues.
First off, everybody, it wouldn't be a party without me. Let's be honest. You're like, oh, welcome back. Of course I'm here. What would you do if I wasn't? The reason I chose Panic in the Sky is I think that, like, when we talk about Superman in the 1990s, for better or for worse, you know, like you just said, the death of Superman storyline, that's what everybody focuses on for the most part. But you can argue, and you know, our guest Matt Price, a much bigger Superman guy than I, this was like a halcyon era for Superman. This was arguably like the creative apex of Superman. Maybe at any time, like you would talk about this, you could talk about the Mort Weisinger stuff. You could talk about the very early days of, you know, Crusader Superman. I cannot fly, I only jump, and I respect that. And I think that the Panic in the Sky is a really important aspect of it. I think this is a really cool spot where I don't know why, but for some reason it feels like early on after the crisis in the early 1990s, DC wanted to keep Superman a little more insular. And so this was a great time when like all of these guys came into the Superman books, and he got to, like basically lead the superheroes on his terms in his books against his bad guys. Really, you know, kind of re-cementing Superman as like the guy in the DC universe. I also chose it because it's a tremendous amount of fun, fairly nonstop. It's interesting to compare it to another crossover happening almost simultaneously, the Infinity Gauntlet, which is also about the superheroes going out into space to challenge a tyrant of sorts. Slightly less death here, just a little bit, but I like that about it. I think, like I said, I think it's a lot of fun. You get to see all these guys interact, have their little moments. And also, like, personally speaking, this was about when I was first getting really super getting into comic books themselves. Like the year before, I'd started getting into the cards, about the Marvel cards, and I didn't get as much into DC because, to be frank, their cards were not very good off the bat. And so, but I was flipping through one of these issues, and it's the one where when we first see the Earth team, which we'll get into later, and it's Batman, and I somehow knew it was Nightwing. I didn't know who anybody else was, and I was flipping through this, and they're like, we're going to do Aquaman, a new Aquaman.
All right.
But we're going to do this now. And I was like mesmerized. I was like, maybe there's something in DC that I should take a gander at after all. And so that was a big step for me to not just be interested in like Marvel characters and the bigger DC guy at the time, Batman, but maybe this universe was very interesting to me. And as it turns out, much like everything else that we ever discuss on this podcast, I was right.
Well, yeah, like you said, we're not alone. Matthew Price, welcome to the Unspoken Issues podcast, sir. Glad to have you here. You ready to talk some Superman Panic in the Sky?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. As Dean mentioned, I've been a big Superman fan for a long time, and I think this is one of the high points of the pre-death era, if you want to call it, sort of between when they rebooted in Man of Steel and then into the death period. That's actually, that whole era is pretty strong. I have collected pretty much that whole era of comics, but this is, as Dean said, it does a nice job of moving the pieces and kind of putting Superman in as a leader of the DC universe, as opposed to just kind of his own thing, which I think is a role a lot of people like him in. So, I mean, if this is a fun story, I think we'll enjoy talking about it. I'm wearing my Chris Reeve shirt for this radio broadcast.
I'm wearing the Vault of Horror shirt, which is cool, but has nothing to do with Panic in the Sky. Although you feel like that could have been the title of a Vault of Horror story.
Well, yeah, Panic in the Sky. That's a good title.
Yeah. Well, Matt, tell me a little bit. I mean, okay, Superman, was he the guy for you ever since you started reading comics, or what's up there?
Pretty much as a kid. I mean, I've become a big Captain America fan as well, and Superman and Cap are kind of my main guys. But as a kid, I think I must have started seeing Superman on Super Friends, the cartoon. And then as the movie came out, the Christopher Reeve movie, I was still pretty little kid. And according to my parents, I just harassed them nonstop until I took them to see that movie. Depending on when you guys may have seen it, I don't know. I saw it at an age where I was just like, well, this is obviously the awesomest thing anybody's ever made about anything.
Right.
And from there on became just a big, I was into all kinds of superheroes. So Superman was kind of the gateway into all that. And I like that he does, the right things for the right reasons. like the investigative reporter tropes. I worked at a newspaper for a good chunk of my career. So
neat.
For whether that was a chicken or an egg situation, I'm not sure. But I always enjoyed those types of stories and seeing when they would do sort of their investigative journalism. So just I've always been a big fan of the character. There's obviously ways like anybody, any character you're a fan of for a long time, there's versions you like better than others. But I do think this 90s version it's pretty good. They had great creators back then on them. It looks good. I think the stories were pretty good. And they did that basically weekly Superman book for 10, 15 years, depending on how you count, I suppose, which is impressive. And I think was helpful at the time as far as just maintaining sort of that weekly comic book store trip. People will be like, okay, well, I'll go in every week. So I'll get my Superman. There'll be a Superman out.
Do you remember?
Batman titles didn't really do that at the time. Like not until like Nightfall, everything was kind of self-contained. So,
right. Batman, there might have almost been a title every week, but it's not like they flowed from week
exactly.
to week.
There's no triangle number on the front being
right.
like,
There's just sort of like
Nightfall had the number and everything. But that's a neat thing to me too, is that they basically put out a weekly comic book, which is, crazy to think about, honestly, at any time on this side of the pond. It's very common in the UK. But like, it might be an argument when people argue that like editors may have too much power. This is a really good example of how an editorial vision can really get the best out of a disparate array of creators, because you've got Dan Jurgens, you've got Louise Simonson, Roger Stern, Jerry Ordway. I'm a black in names now. Carl Kessel's going to come along. I can't pronounce John Bogdanovo's last name. Somebody else will get it for me. I got a lot of experts around here. But like, do you think that's an argument for like editorial vision versus like total creator freedom?
I mean, I think it depends on what you're doing. And I think the Superman books at the time were a good example of treating it a lot like a TV show. Okay, you're going to write your episode, and you write your episode, and you write your episode, and it's all going to kind of flow together. Almost more like TV now than TV then, because obviously TV in the 90s didn't have as many overarching subplots, but this really did. Every week you'd have your subplots, but then each group maybe had some characters that were more theirs, some villains that were more theirs. For Panic in the Sky, you don't see the subplots as much,
right?
Because it's all kind of the one big Brainiac thing. But it was a good example of, okay, so you have your stuff that you can play with and it's kind of yours to mess with. And then we're also just moving this overall plot forward.
I mean, where would you rank Brainiac in the Rogues Gallery for Superman? Top 3, top 5? Where are you putting that, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, he's 2.
Okay. How about you, Dean?
Yeah, he's probably number 2. I mean, this guy he's been around forever. He's been through different incarnations. We've seen him in different ways. His progeny will become a good guy at one point. So I think he's not just number 2 because of the threat he has to Superman, but also his position within the mythos. He's been very, very developed. Personally, I like his superpowers look with that like robot brain guy. I'm in.
All right. Well, so
okay.
I
mean, I think what your arguments are Luthor and then Zod and then maybe Doomsday, who's a latecomer. But I think Brainiac, given his timeline and everything, for me, he's 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mixel probably deserves a mention.
So this is 92. Now, mind you, for me personally, 92 Superman, early 92 Superman, I don't know what's going on. Now, I recognize some of the characters we're going to be getting in here because of the death of Superman. Some of these characters are mainstays after that show up, and I had the chance to read that a while back and cover it on the podcast. Obviously, there's a lot of players throughout Panic in the Sky. There are a good bit of the established DC superheroes that we know. They don't have huge parts, but I mean, they're playing a part in the overall narrative here. But there are some characters that aren't usually, they certainly weren't on my radar back in 90s DC. I knew all the big guys, Batman, Superman. But when you start talking about Matrix, when you start talking about Maxima, these are characters that are pretty, I think.
You don't know Agent Liberty? You're not a big Agent Liberty guy?
Who's this Guardian dude? I don't know who this guy is.
That's sacrilege, Guardian.
Who's this Bibbo guy? No, I'm just kidding. I know the Bibbo.
Bibbo also great.
But anyway, so just bear with me because my ignorance, I'll be learning from you guys tonight. So just be aware. But that's kind of where I'm at in 1990s. DC's, unfortunately, I'm not entrenched in knowing what's going on in the Superman, Batman, Justice League. Have no idea what's going on over here in early 90s DC. So this was a treat. This was something I'd never read before.
Oh, lucky you. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a good time. So
I remember the first time I read it. I read the old trade paperback, and that I showed y'all a copy of it earlier. And like I was at this guy's house, and like I was I was 15, and he was like 20. So that meant he had like money, in my opinion.
Yeah,
he had,
buddy.
like 20 trade paperbacks, right?
Right.
And like and so like he's like, yeah, do you want to borrow Panic in the Sky? Do I want to borrow Panic in the Sky? Absolutely, I would like to borrow Panic in the Sky. And I didn't even get to borrow it because I just disassociated and like read it that night while we're supposed to be playing Dungeons and Dragons. I just read this comic book. I couldn't help it. It's a lot of fun. That's what I'm saying. Lucky you. It really draws you in. I mean, I'm not going to sit here like nobody's going to compare it to, some all-time classic, but like, oh, this is a must-read masterpiece. But within the realm of just solid, really good superhero stuff, you can't do much better.
I think I read it as it was coming out. I think by this point I was working at the comic book store, which eventually became my comic book store. And I think I was just picking up the Superman titles as it came out. So,
okay.
So you're still picking up the Superman titles as they come out.
Yeah, basically. As I remember I think picking it up because you've got that, the one cool cover where it's everybody kind of running and that's a great cover. And then you've got the next month, they're all skeletons. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? So,
yeah.
There's some really compelling
cover on the
covers
epilogue's epic too.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think I might. It's possible that I might have missed one, but I was pretty much picking up the Superman titles, and I think I was at the comic book store by this point. So I think I pretty much got them all, and then I've read it several times since. For me, and this is just a quick aside before we get into the whole. It's a little bit, Dean, like watching a Royal Rumble. It's just like, who's showing up next? It's this guy. This guy's coming in. And like maybe sometimes it's Andre the Giant, and maybe sometimes it's Red Rooster. But either way, for a second, it's this guy coming down.
And who cares who it is? Because like even if it's the Red Rooster, and the guy before that was the Macho King Randy Savage, the best incarnation of Randy Savage. Like it's all about seeing them interact. Like maybe the Metal Men aren't any players, but they don't talk to Deathstroke very often. So let's see.
Right. So it's a different mix than you get at just your average episode of whatever wrestling show you watch. You're getting like. Yeah, it's the Metal Men, and they're with Deathstroke, and there's Wonder Woman, and when have they all been together?
Right. And Agent Liberty.
And Agent Liberty.
Boy, oh boy. There was, I did not go in depth on like who the teams were. So if you guys want to do that and start naming them off, because I think I know I could do Earth teams pretty easy because I looked at that and I was like, there ain't too many people there. But boy, when we get out in space, they
take a lot of guys to space. And some of the guys that wind up in space weren't there at the original meeting. Metamorpho's not there. How the hell did he get into space? Did he just gas his way to space? I respect it if he did.
Hey,
but he was not there. And that
wow.
reminds me of a time when I did not go to baseball practice, and then the coach said, you can't come play in the game because you didn't go to practice. Metamorpho should not have been allowed to go to space. He should have had to stay on Earth.
Yeah,
because he was not there at the meeting.
Coach Superman.
But he might have been a chair or something. That's fair.
Unclear. You know what? That's fair. He could have been. He could have been an invisible gas. I don't know. Right. I don't remember who all was on each team, but I remember that, I guess I do remember, I couldn't name them off. I didn't list them off, but like the space team is like basically anybody who has any strength whatsoever. So you get the Superman, you get Largan, the Daxamite, and Captain Marvel, Shazam, who honestly, I love this story, but I'm like, couldn't the three of these guys just handled it? Just gone in there and just murked some guys? Wonder Woman, Kilowog, Guy Gardner, Fire, Ice, Deathstroke, Rocket Red, Booster Gold, Metamorpho, the Metal Men, Will Payton Starman, Flash. That's all I remember. Oh, Guardian and Agent Liberty are there. I don't remember anybody else off the top of my head, but that's the space team as I remember them.
Hell of a rundown there. Well, let's do some character introductions first, okay? Because, like I said, Matrix, all right? So here's what I wrote down for Matrix. A protoplasmic shapeshifter who once took the form of Supergirl and fought alongside Superman. When you are introduced in this book, I don't know if I put that in here or not, but I know that all of a sudden I see Superman out in space and he's getting in a bar fight, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Well, hey, guess what? It's not Superman, it's Matrix.
I mean, there's a lot of backstory, and then there's actually a lot of front story that happens after this.
Right.
That's even more confusing. I think for the
later she'll be an angel.
Right. It's just
okay.
Why, don't worry about that now.
No, it's fine. We're not talking about that right now. She has a skateboard too, but that matters less.
But no, she's from an alternate universe, as I recall, and there's a whole story of how she shows up. And they were having a hard time reintroducing Supergirl in the 90s because they had so dramatically killed her off in Crisis, and they didn't want to just bring her back as the same, but they also wanted to have a Supergirl character for a lot of reasons. The way they did it was they brought in this character, this protoplasmic shape-shifting character from another universe. And there is a whole Supergirl saga. Maybe Dean will want to do a show on that at some point. I don't know. It's like a 3-parter. But I think all of that is probably, for the purposes of today, I think you probably have hit the high points. Alternate universe, shape-shifting character who once appeared as Supergirl, but who can, appear as all kinds of different people. Right. And as you found out, as Superman.
Okay. Then we have Draga, who is an alien that apparently has ran into Superman before. They've either fought, or a denizen of Warworld at one point, maybe, and they fought. He feels he's been wronged in a death rite of some sort, and he intends to duel to the death with Superman because of this previous encounter that he had. So just imagine, okay, we got Draga. He's also got a beef with Superman. Who doesn't have a beef with Superman, apparently? Draga definitely does. Okay, Matt does not. Matt does not. But yeah, I mean, so there's Draga. This is a character I never knew anything about until I hopped into this story. Anything else you guys would like to add?
I think they meet like the first time Superman goes to Warworld, because he knows all about Warworld. I can't remember. Matt will be able to correct me, but I think they fought, and Superman, by law, is supposed to kill him, but then he didn't. They did a really good Justice League that kind of centered around this at one point, like the DCAU one. I remember seeing that and really liking it, but I haven't read that stuff in a long, long time. So I'll let Mr. Price pick it up.
That's pretty close to it. Draga was like a Warworld champion when Mongol was running it. Superman defeated him. You're supposed to kill him. Superman's like, well, I'm not killing him. I'm sparing your life. And Draga's like, well, now you've shamed me, so I got to fight you to the death again. And so that's kind of where he is.
Alien gladiator stuff.
Yep. All right, and then we have Maxima and Alam. Oh boy, let's see if I don't even know if I actually put this correctly. She's from, is it Almerac? That's where she's from. Almerac.
Yeah,
does
that's
that sound
how
right?
I say it. Almerac.
Okay. I put Almeracian. And of course, Google kept saying, "You sure you don't want to say American, do you?" No, I do not. It's Almerac.
Are you sure you don't mean Melmac, where Alpha's from?
Right, where Alpha's from.
Anyway, she's from Almerac, and she believes she was destined to mate with Superman, but after being rejected, wants nothing now but to kill him.
This is the beginning of a Maxima's face turn. Maxima's going to make a face turn. She's going to wind up in the Justice League. She's going to be an Extreme Justice after that. I think y'all covered number 0 of that, and she was in it. That's right. She wants a powerful mate to have a powerful offspring. And I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but in the DC universe, they don't come more powerful than Superman. Although later, I think she does. She slums it with Captain Atom. So way to go, Captain Nathaniel Adam. But no, for real, an interesting character who I didn't see until the Death of Superman saga. And I've always really liked Maxima. I think she makes a heel turn again later. I really like her. I really think she's cool. She's got a good look. I think that she fits well into the Superman mythos.
Yeah, I mean, from her point of view, she's right. She's like, I need to have the most powerful heir as possible to maintain peace on my planet.
Yeah.
And Superman, by rejecting me, you're leading my planet into potential civil war and destruction. So from her point of view, what's your big deal, Superman? Just right. You're supposed to be for peace and justice. Well, here you go. So, but he's a farm boy from Kansas, and he sees that as maybe a step too far. So,
right.
Yeah, and I think you can see her point to some degree. Although I think Superman is reluctant to potentially be, if it doesn't go well and they end up being tyrannical, then he's reluctant to go that route.
Mm-hmm. So Warworld is the setting of, a big part of this. And I know that I've seen Warworld before. The idea that I had was like Warworld was this huge, it's the Death Star. All right. The Death Star, but like just completely filled with people who apparently love gladiator battles. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the way I would describe it is it's like Planet Hulk meets Ego the Living Planet. Okay. Like, I mean, there's gladiator battles. The people there, much like the Roman Colosseum, which, we talk about it, but I think people forget the reason it was there is like things weren't great for the average Roman citizen at that time. So this was a way to distract the old bread and circuses. So they have a populace that's apparently, I don't know know what they do because I can't imagine what the economy on Warworld is like. But they go to these fights and they get mad when there's bad fights. And so Warworld, from what I understand, has like, you know, tries to get the best fighters it can at different times, whoever's in charge of Warworld, in order to appease the populace. And Warworld, like Ego the Living Planet, you know, has locomotion. Like, it doesn't have to stay in one spot. Again, I think, honestly, if you want a good capsule of Warworld, you got to watch that Justice League 2-parter.
Okay. All right. Matt,
I think it's
that...
literally called Warworld.
Oh, all right. Shouldn't be able.
Yeah, that sounds like usually Mongol is usually controlling it. But
yeah, it's Mongol who's usually running it. Yeah.
Yeah, Mongol's out of the picture, just like you said. Brainiac's now in control of Warworld. So, like I said, this hits the shelves probably late 91, early 92. That's where we get our start for Panic in the Sky. We begin Panic in the Sky in Action Comics 674, cover dated February of 1992, in a story called The Past is Prologue, written by Roger Stern, penciled by Bob McLeod, inked by Dennis Rodier, lettered by Bill Oakley, and colored by Glenn Whitmore. Then the first strike occurs in Superman the Man of Steel number 9, cover dated March of 1992, with a story called Power Breakfast. Story was written by Louise Simonson, layouts by John Bogdanov, finishes by Dennis Janke, lettered by Bill Oakley, and colored by Glenn Whitmore. And then second strike occurs in Superman 65, cover dated March of 1992, with a story titled Headman. They have the credits a bit different here, with Dan Jurgens as the designer/shaper, Brett Breeding on forms, John Costanza as on data, Glenn Whitmore on hues, and Dan Thorsland as navigator. Now, we open our prologue in space, where through some mind trickery and force, Brainiac recruits Draga, Maxima, and Matrix in a plan designed to defeat Superman. Brainiac is now the ruler of Warworld and plans to use all of its might in this effort as well. Back on Earth, Metropolis begins getting attacked by Brainiac's ship, which is being remotely controlled. As it wreaks havoc on Metropolis's citizens, Superman arrives trying to get inside the ship to stop its destruction. Once inside, Superman's mind comes under attack, and Brainiac psychically explains he is going to remove him from the game and that Warworld is coming. Shaking off the attack, Superman guides the ship to crash at sea. Out in space, Metron, all right, and pausing real quick because I want to know, Matt, do your best here, man. Tell me who Metron is, other than the pretty eyebrows this man has. Tell me who Metron is. I know a little bit about the Mobius chair. I know a little bit. This is a new god, correct? Is he a new god?
Yeah,
Okay,
he is. Right. And I don't, Dean may be more of a new gods deep dive guy than me, but Metron is one of the new gods. He's sort of the, what would you say? He's sort of the watcher almost of the new gods, but he gets a little more involved than that.
He's a tweeter.
Sort of, yeah. Okay. Sort of along the lines of like, oh, something bad is happening. Metron is going to show up and probably not really help.
See what happens.
Or possibly caused it because somebody promised him the cosmic screw.
Yeah, a bit of a tweener.
Yeah, that's the thing with Metron. It's like you said, he's one of the new gods, and most of the new gods are like decidedly loyal to New Genesis or Apocalypse. But Metron, he's only loyal really to like knowledge. He wants to know everything, and one day he'd like to pierce the source wall with his Mobius chair and not become one of the Promethean giants and then just float there and do nothing forever. He usually takes the side of New Genesis, but on occasion, like he has done things that have furthered the war in Apocalypse's favor. But mostly, he just floats around on that damn chair, say like Matt said, not doing much of anything, saying cryptic stuff about like things you know and things you don't know, and the future and the past will all come together. But interestingly enough, the first time I saw Metron was in a pack of DC their 91 card set, maybe in 92, but the Cosmic cards. And what's funny is I got Metron and Gangbuster in the same pack, and Gangbuster plays a fairly prominent role here. So I was ready for Panic in the Sky, and I loved Metron from the first time I read about him. I know shit from Apple Butter about the New Gods or Jack Kirby or anything. This is just a pack of cards I got because they didn't have marble cards at the KB store. And like I was at Metron, I was like, that's my guy. He just wants to know everything. I respect that. I'd like to know everything. But and to put it in perspective too, on the cards, he's filed under superheroes, so he certainly leans more that way.
He invented the boom tube, right? There you go.
Yeah, he invented the boom tube.
Okay.
And Zodak from like Masters of the Universe is very, very inspired by
kind of like that.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
They both got chairs.
Yeah.
Kind of like Razor Ramon a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. The old Mobius edge just coming off the
got
top.
it. All right. Yeah.
With the ladder.
Yeah. It would have to be like the Infinity Cosmic Ladder Beyond, though, for this to work.
He is usually a good guy, but then also every time he says something, you're like, are you really trying to help us or not?
Oh, well, out in space, Metron visits Almerac and sees Warworld's destruction, but then gets attacked psychically by Brainiac and Matrix, brings him to Warworld, but not before he's able to send his Mobius chair to Superman as a warning. When New Gods, Orion, and Light Ray arrive to find Metron, but only find the Mobius chair, Superman says, hey, this is what's going on, man. You know, he's obviously there's a warning. This guy Metron sent this here as a warning, and Warworld is on its way. Brainiac's told me what's going on. Now, against Superman's warning, the two head to Warworld, but are soon captured by Maxima. Gloating, Brainiac psychically shows Superman their defeat, leading Superman to begin recruiting heroes for a trip to space to take the fight to Brainiac's Warworld before it reaches Earth. During a gathering of all of the heroes, they notice Aquaman is missing, but they soon see Brainiac's ship has resurfaced, remember it was out at sea, continuing its rampage, carrying an unconscious Aquaman. And that's kind of where we end the second strike, as they say here. I will throw this in here. I understand this is a Superman book. We've got to focus on some of these characters that are essential to Superman's narrative here. Jimmy Olsen is unfortunately unemployed. And we get Jimmy Olsen's unemployment journey, part 1, in these first 3 issues, where he's trying to find a job. Bibbo's trying to help him out, I think. And he's got some pics that he took of a robot. I think the city comes under attack, and like Bibbo's trying to make Jimmy understand, hey, man, the city's under attack. And Jimmy's like just straight up trying to figure out, who am I going to get these pictures to? He ends up running into a guy who offers him a job after looking at the photos. Now, we meet a lot of side characters during the attack where Brainiac's ship is unleashing hell upon Metropolis. We get a glimpse at Cadmus, which houses the Guardian, and I don't want to call him an alien because he said he was Earthborn. His name's Double X. So
yeah, he's a DN alien.
DN alien. All right. Tell me about the DN aliens and who in the world this guy is, because he does play a major part. Double X plays a major part in this book.
Well, he's part of the Cadmus Project, which was actually also connected to Jack Kirby's Fourth World. It debuted in like Jimmy Olsen's comic, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It's this crazy, super secret government, slightly not governmental, right? Paramilitary experimentation lab, and Double X is a DN alien, and I forget how they made him, but like he's like, they created him, and the Guardian is like the clone of an old 40s superhero called the Guardian, who Jack Kirby also created, and then like he brought back in the 70s. And I think that remained his origin under the New Earth, but I can't say for sure. But that's where these guys all started. So there's a lot of one of the neatest things about this run for me, honestly, when you go back and read it. Again, I didn't know about the New Gods and stuff then either, but the New Gods in the Fourth World really, really influence and have play a big part in the Superman mythos from, say, I don't know, 88 until 97 with Genesis or so. Maybe a little longer if you count JLA.
One of the things that I didn't mention in this synopsis was the fact that Lex Luthor 2, so he's hanging out. Obviously, we're kind of watching the effects of Brainiac's ship as it's going through Metropolis, affecting everybody that Superman knows. Lex Luthor 2, though, tell me about this Lex Luthor 2 and what's going on here.
Okay, so I think I may tell some of this out of order, but basically Luthor got caught doing a lot of horrible stuff, was going to go to jail, was also dying of kryptonite poisoning. So he has, and I think this is revealed at the time, I don't think it's a secret, he has a clone made of himself and then transports his brain into the clone body. Then his original body dies and he introduces his clone as his son, but it's really just him the whole time.
I noticed that he had like a Scottish
and he's Australian now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. That's the thing that I noticed. Like,
Yeah.
he's got an accent too, which is interesting.
Hey, listen, you gotta go all the way.
Yeah. Luthor 1, I mean, the cover story is Luthor 1 had an affair in Australia some 30 years ago, and then he is revealed as his heir after the original Luthor dies, but in fact is actually himself.
So, and he baby faces everybody when he comes back.
He does. And he almost makes you think, well, maybe he is going to turn over a new leaf a few times. You start thinking, well, maybe he is going to use this opportunity to not be such a jerk all the time now that people kind of like him and he has this new start. It's kind of on the edge for a while. Is he going to turn face? Is he? Because he obviously has, the crowds behind him, so to speak.
I wanted to make sure that I mentioned him because anybody who picks up this book and is like, why are they calling this guy Lex Luthor? I mean, it's just, what in the world's going on? He does help out everybody. He's not the evil Luthor that we're thinking that Lex is. The original Lex.
No, at this point, LexCorp has a very nice Pride logo.
Right.
They're a good corporation now.
Right. They are a good corporation. And they're helping out the heroes. They're sending out a team. There's a team Luthor that's shows up. They're all in armor and everything that helps out people on the street. So I did want to definitely mention them because he does show up here. We do have Professor Emil Hamilton, who he's showing up here at the end for sure, but he does help out as well. He's helping out Bibbo, I think, at the beginning. So in these first three, he's helping out Bibbo, piling around with Bibbo. And
I thought he was just getting lunch. I thought he was just getting lunch and the world started falling. And then that waitress get out of here with these donuts, you jerk. And then Jimmy and Bibbo and him eat a donut in what is honestly one of my favorite panels of the whole thing. There's perfect bites out of the donuts and there's bricks falling and shit. And they're just all right, so what's next? Gotta have breakfast, even in the apocalypse.
Oh, so is there any backstory for Emil Hamilton here before Panic in the Sky that is important?
He was introduced, I think, in the second Adventures of Superman post-crisis, created by, I think, Marv Wolfman. He probably has a predecessor, like a pre-crisis, something they kind of based him on. But he was a scientist who got fired by Luthor, as I recall. And so he invents this big gauntlet machine that he thinks can kill Superman. And Superman manages to get through it. It doesn't kill him. And he's like, why did you do this? He's like, well, I didn't have anything left. Lex stole all my ideas. I'm broke. I'm living on the street. I had to prove that my stuff would work. So anyway, he from that, instead of going and being a supervillain, decides to become an ally of Superman. And for the next several years throughout the book, whenever Superman needs something scienced, he goes to Professor Hamilton, who I think goes on and works at Star Labs for a while after that. I think sometimes he is, sometimes he isn't, but he's sort of Superman's go-to, hey, what is this sciencey thing that we have found?
Got it. All right.
And when he doesn't know, he goes to Project Cadmus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hamilton's like, I don't know. Go to Project Cadmus. Or possibly Star Labs, like you said. I don't know.
Yeah.
They do a neat little job of focusing on who Superman is recruiting. And one of those people that he recruits made me raise an eyebrow, where he reaches out to Deathstroke. So he's obviously on the good side here. Is just Superman's just I need to find a tactical dude. This is where I'm going to go.
Dean, isn't it right around his face turn?
Yeah, he has his own title at this point.
Okay.
This is after, what was it? He turns face during, I think, Titan's Hunt, or right before that. And so, at this point, he's at least a tweener, and he has his own title, Deathstroke the Terminator, and yeah, he's basically a member of the Titans doing good things, and I think he turns heel again, about the turn of the century.
Okay. All right, I'm pulling back here. All right, it's time for you guys, whatever you guys want to talk about here. Matt, we'll start with you, buddy. What do you think of these first three? The prologue, we got First Strike and Second Strike.
One thing I do love whenever sci-fi has a CD bar, that regardless of how far flung into the future or space you are, that there's still a CD bar establishment a la Star Wars that you can go into. So I kind of like that Matrix is kind of like doing the Clint Eastwood Man with No Name thing at the beginning there with the poncho and the hat. I think that's kind of a neat bit. I love that cover on Man of Steel 9 on First Strike. We talked a little bit about John Bogdanov. I think he really captures like the strength of Superman. It's kind of like, to me, he's almost a straight line from the Golden Age Superman to the 90s, is just how he portrays him, with just like all this like coiled up, ready to explode strength. But also, something I showed you guys, we mentioned a little bit, is that, there's a scene in the Mechanical Monsters Fleischer cartoon that almost matches up almost exactly, not as a swipe so much, but definitely an homage of him fighting some mechanical monsters in this issue, in issue 9 as well. I liked all that. I liked the closing page of the Villains United in issue 9. And then as we get into the second strike, it's got that iconic cover, Jurgens and Breeding, that are just a classic Superman team. The assemblage of the heroes reminds you a little bit maybe of Crisis in some degree, but it's where Superman gets to kind of stand up and be like, okay, I'm the guy that you listen to at times like this. You get a little bit of Lois and Superman in this. So
I was gonna say, there's a few things that remind me of Crisis in this series. We haven't hit it yet, but there's definitely a cover. There's a cover that definitely, you're like, oh, wait a second. There's two, because if you want to pull the skeleton one, that happens in Crisis as well on one of the covers. So, but anyway, go ahead. I interrupted you. Go ahead.
No, basically that was it. Other than I know Dean wants to talk about the New Gods getting jobbed out. So.
Oh, it did seem like they really did get beat really easily.
Orion could kill everybody on war. I'm sorry, man. That's the god of fucking war. Like, just destroying everything. But, somebody's got to do the job in every crossover situation. And if somebody important doesn't do the job early, it doesn't mean as much. So, on the one hand, I am upset. I think that Metron and Light Ray and Orion, they did not look as good as they could have. But if somebody doesn't look bad early, like, what do we care? If Orion can go in there and just take care of everything, I guess Superman's secret wish came true. Because at one point early, he's like, oh, man, maybe they'll take care of it. I won't even have to do anything. I'm like, well, that's not what is this? Like, maybe somebody will do it for me. No, I understand, though. To be honest, like, that's how I feel about every household chore. If you're Superman, like, you've got to be like, oh, man, this oil volcano just exploded. Can somebody else take care of this one, please? And I don't do any household chores. And, like, Superman does, like, all of it. So, anyhow, so I do think that I wish they had gotten a little better. But, again, I understand. I like I said earlier, I like the scene where, like, Jimmy is, like, running across. I think this is so, like, earlier you mentioned that this worked like a TV show. And this is such a TV show moment where he's running through, people are just like lasers are zapping behind him. He drops the pictures right to the guy he was bringing them to. What serendipity. And I mean that in a good way. I'm not knocking it. I mean honestly, if you're gonna pick on realism, you can't start with this guy tripping and dropping his pictures on the street in front of the guy he was bringing them to, because there's a flying planet full of gladiator people that the Infinity Man fights. So, like, you're going to have to start elsewhere if you have a problem with realism or whatever.
Right.
But I like that stuff. I enjoy, I think all the covers of this are just classic. I think the first 3 issues do a really good job of evoking the title. Matthew and I were talking about, like, this was the title of an episode of the old Adventures of Superman TV show. And it does feel like the way they draw it and the way it's laid out, it is a panic in the sky. Everything is coming from above. You'll notice so many shots from above, like a bird's eye or somebody looking up, I guess an anti-bird's eye. I don't know what you call that. But so you go from there and like you get all these superheroes getting together. And I'm a big mark. I'm a huge mark for the heroes getting together. Y'all mentioned Crisis, but honestly, to me, I understand that comparison. It honestly feels more like Infinity Gauntlet. It feels more like this is something that just got thrown together. There's no big, like, cosmic guy bringing them together. Thanos is the bad guy, but all the stuff on Earth is done by the Earthbound guys. And I feel like, they're like, but we're going to have to go off to deal with this. And also for whatever reason, Brainiac is just hamming it up like Thanos style to me. Like, he's very just like, haha, very evil, come and get me.
Oh, yeah.
He's on his, like, evil Mobius chair. I respect it. He's got an evil Mobius chair. Metron's got a neutral one, I guess. I don't know. It does make you wonder, though, speaking of Metron, he's sort of a jerk and nobody likes him, but apparently they like him enough to show up when he's in trouble. But he doesn't trust or like them enough to send his Mobius chair to them. He sends it to Superman, which would lead me to believe you could do a great like Keeping Up with the Kardashians or like Real Housewives of New Genesis show. There's got to be a lot of drama there that we're not seeing. Like, why did you don't send this to your family? Like, but we're coming to save you. I would watch it. I'm not going to lie to y'all. And again, like I said, that big assemblage of heroes, Aquaman being in trouble. Also the heroes like Gangbuster who, is like, I can't go to space. All I've got are nunchucks. I like that he was like, we're gonna split this up to where it makes even more sense as you read it. Really, it's just a really good setup for what comes next. And they do a great job. Like, if you didn't know who Drago was, they do a great job making you like him really quick. Mm-hmm. Like, there's just, unless you're just, Johnny 7th grade cynic, you're going to like this guy. He's trying hard. He has a sense of morals that he adheres to, regardless of which side he appears to be on. To keep the wrestling analogies going, I guess he's like Road Warrior Hawk. Like, the Road Warriors don't really change face or heel. They seem to have a code of honor. They don't usually cheat. They don't, they go in there, fist first. They're going to take care of it. So, I really like how they get him over. And I like Maxima. And it's a very good soap opera scene between her and Brainiac. They can't really trust each other, but Brainiac just likes lording over her, and Maxima's just going to kill him the first chance she gets.
Right.
Believe it or not.
Brainiac, him with the like evil goatee. I'm not used to this look. I'm not used to this look at all for Brainiac. I don't know if it's just because I wasn't reading at this time. I mean, is this normally how he looked back in the 90s with the goatee and everything?
Not all the time, I don't think. He in the Silver Age, he sort of had the clean shaven look.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And then, it's a little bit confusing because I think there was a guy with a goatee who got his mind invaded by Brainiac.
Oh,
and so at first we thought Brainiac was just a guy, but then it turned out, no, he was an alien and he took over that guy's body. So I think that's where the goatee came from. It may not be 100% correct. I was going to actually look this up because it's kind of confusing how Brainiac goes from being like a guy to an alien to a robot. But in any case, I think that's where the goatee came from. I think the guy whose mind he invaded had the...
He definitely pulls off evil. When you look at that, he is definitely...
Right. Here comes Mirror Universe Spock on his anti-Mobius chair, to just evil up this gladiator world. And that's what he does all the time. From the first issue until like almost the time he dies, it's not enough for him to just be like, hey, man, I'm going to take over Earth and destroy stuff. He's like trolling Superman. He's beaming images. He's like, look at this. Look what I did to your friends.
Yep.
It's wild. He's just AOL instant messaging, just hate right into Superman's brain box. Like, listen, if you're going to go for the king, you may as well be loud about it.
Oh, do it, man. Do it all the way.
I do think it's a little funny that Metron thinks that mailing somebody his chair is a good warning. That's just kind of like, is that the international symbol for I'm in trouble?
On New Genesis
chair?
It's like an empty chair just appeared.
Like Dean, if one of your chairs shows up at my house tomorrow, should I get on a plane because you're in trouble?
Yes, actually, if one of my chairs shows up at your house somehow, right now, you probably should get on a plane.
At least call him.
Bad things have happened.
Hey, I got your chair over here. What is going on?
Right. First off, how did you know it's my chair? My chairs are decidedly nondescript. Well,
I don't know. Maybe it's a return address, but I don't know.
But you're right. What would they have done if Double X had been there? Yeah, without Double X there, they wouldn't have figured anything out because he's like, I do brain stuff.
That's true.
I can figure this out.
Yeah,
so
I'll check it out.
Why send it to Superman? Because those guys track it down anyway. Like Orion and Light Ray just show up with their mother boxes. They're like, he's here. You're right. It doesn't make sense. But I'm gonna let it slide because we get to see Double X on it.
Yeah.
Sure. No, I think it's probably Metron is just a jerk, and he's like, I'm gonna send it to Superman. I trust him more to figure it out. He'll understand when I mail him the chair.
He'll use his super mathematics to put it together.
Super math. All right. Third Strike. This story takes place in Adventures of Superman 488, cover dated March of 1992. The tale is called Counter-Strike, penciled by Tom Grummett, inked by Doug Hazelwood, written by Jerry Ordway, colored by Glenn Whitmore, lettered by Albert de Guzman. And then Fourth Strike takes place in Action Comics 675, March of 1992 cover date, with a story called Divide and Conquer, written by Roger Stern, Bob McLeod and Dennis Rodier as artists, Bill Oakley as letterer, Glenn Whitmore coloring. And then Fifth Strike takes place in Superman the Man of Steel number 10, cover dated April of 1992, story titled Tidal Wave, Louise Simonson on story, John Bogdanove layouts, Dennis Janke on finishes, Bill Oakley on lettering, Glenn Whitmore on coloring. As Brainiac's ship again attacks Metropolis, the combined might of the team of superheroes that Superman has assembled is able to incapacitate it quickly and rescue Aquaman. Using the power of the Mobius chair, Double X is able to commandeer Brainiac's ship, and the team is now headed to space with Superman to face off with Warworld. Arriving at their destination, the team faces off with Draga, Maxima, and other citizens of Warworld, but some are able to break free to infiltrate the massive ship. Brainiac begins to lose his mind control over Matrix, who, still in the form of Supergirl, finally comes to her senses and begins to help Superman and his team, and Draga soon follows suit. After that, Brainiac begins to use devices to take over some of the other heroes, using them to attack their friends. Luckily, Superman and Matrix are able to figure this out, rescuing some of the mind-controlled heroes, but Brainiac has been busy unleashing a horde of other mind-controlled superheroes at Superman. Seeing the increased threat, Double X sends out a telepathic aid request that any available hero return to help out Superman. Now, during this fight, Matrix is knocked out and taken captive by Maxima. This is important because during the story, we learn that Maxima has joined with Brainiac because he used Warworld to conquer her home planet of Almerac. And in order to protect her people from further harm, she agreed to help Brainiac kill her mate that scorned her, Superman. However, Matrix makes her realize that she will have no chance for Superman to fall in love with her if he's dead. Pretty good argument. Plus, if she works to defeat Brainiac now, Maxima will have a better chance of ensuring her planet's survival. Maxima has grown tired of Brainiac's orders and agrees to release Matrix and help Superman and his team. So now we have Draga, we got Matrix, and we have Maxima all joining Team Superman here. So back in the battle, a recently freed Metron helps the heroes by designing a psychic disruptor to free the rest of the enslaved heroes that are attacking their own. However, a desperate Brainiac unleashes a deadly organic construct that fires antimatter, causing the heroes to head for cover. As it charges its cannon, Matrix intends to sacrifice herself by blocking the barrel with her own body, but Draga instead beats her to it. At the expense of his own life and the secret love he had developed, and I said secret love, that seemed like he was definitely getting feelings for Matrix, we'll just put it that way. The secret love he had developed for Matrix, Draga gives the heroes enough time to eject the construct into space, allowing it to safely explode away from Warworld. Undeterred, Brainiac revels that Warworld now approaches Earth, where he plans to shrink city after city, crushing them under his boot until the heroes finally surrender.
That's extra.
On Earth, Batman is in charge of the defense team in Metropolis that now has its hands full with some teleported champions of Warworld. So we got out there, I've got the list here. So Crimson Fox is on Earth along with Blue Beetle, Aquaman, Nightwing, Thorn, and Gangbuster along with Batman. They're all trying to keep the streets of Metropolis safe, which is not happening. But they're doing their best there. So anyway, back to Jimmy Olsen's unemployment journey. Jimmy finally gets his job at News Time. You know, I think Jimmy's like taking pictures of the battle. You know, he's definitely getting some good pics. He's wanting to, you know, at least get some money going here. And he ends up getting, that's right. And then he's like in a helicopter, gets shot at. The helicopter goes down, lands in the ocean, but luckily Aquaman takes him to shore, where he ends up running into Lois Lane, who says, "Hey, I might be able to get your job back at Daily Planet." He's like, "Oh, really? Okay." And there is the unemployment. That's part two. We haven't concluded Jimmy Olsen's unemployment journey just yet. All right. So we are at the end of the, what was this? This was Fifth Strike, I believe. Yeah, third, fourth, and fifth strike. So, Matt, I want to throw it to you, man. What are your notes there? What do you have there for these next three that we're covered?
My mom is going to be excited that I mentioned her on a podcast. She won't really.
Oh.
But my mom was not really into buying bad guys. She would buy as good guys, but not bad guys. So we had a lot of times where, like, the good guys would get mind controlled, so they would have to fight the bad guy, the other good guys, because we didn't have any bad guys. So this is basically a lot like what I would play as a kid. About half the superheroes end up getting mind controlled so that the other good guys have somebody to fight. So you got Shazam gets mind controlled or whatever, they gotta fight. This was very much like something I would play as a kid. Like, okay, half the superheroes are mind controlled by whoever, Brainiac in this case, and now we gotta fight them.
Yeah,
it was nice that Brainiac could put the little helmets on them so you could tell who they were supposed to fight them.
Right.
Yeah. Those tire four ways.
Right.
Throw them right on top of the head. There. Yeah, you mentioned that, and that's obviously we've got to up the ante here. It can't just be Superman's forces going up against a bunch of nondescript dudes and the 3-4 baddies that we know, because they're going to just outnumber them. How can they not win? But then when you start turning the heroes on each other, then all of a sudden it becomes a threat, and you start sending all of these heroes. That was one of the big points of this book where I was like, oh man, he's going to be in for a fight here when everybody starts going after Superman, and he's got to try and figure out a way to fend him off. I didn't mention, I don't even know if it shows up in my next synopsis. It might. The call goes out to bring some heroes in. We get Infinity. What was it? Infinity Man?
Infinity Man.
Okay, someone want
to. You got Infinity Man, I'm sure.
Yeah, lay that one on me. That one's interesting because that whole troop of, what were they called?
Forever People.
I think I own some of those issues. I just got accidentally in an auction. I have no idea who these guys are. I don't know who these people are though. Tell me about the Forever People and an Infinity Man.
Well, once again, actually, the Forever People are also New Gods. They're from Supertown. Basically, Jack Kirby created them, inspired, because this is after he moved out to California. And as part of the Fourth World, he got really inspired by hippie culture, for lack of a better term. The counterculture, psychedelia. So the way you should really think of the Forever People, they're space hippies. They are young godlings, for lack of a better term, who are out there trying to find whatever it is to find. Like Simon and Garfunkel said, they're out there looking for America. And at the same time, they realize that, they're part of an incredibly epic and devastating interplanetary war that at one point they're going to have to choose a side on. They're good guys. They're going to be the good guys, but along the way, they've got a lot of questions to answer about morality and what does it mean? What does it mean to fight? If fighting's bad, we got to fight them because they're evil, because they want to fight. Should we fight? And they also have superpowers and stuff. They all have their own one. I think it's Seraphim, who has like cosmic cartridges. They do whatever he needs them to do, whatever he needs them to do it. Viking's got his Big Bear is strong. Grizzly, that Rob Liefeld created, pretty much a carbon copy of Big Bear visually, except he has more grenades, more pouches. But and they drive they have the super cycle. They drive that, the Beautiful Dreamer, and then I can't remember their leader's name. He's like the least. Oh, he's something Ryder. I can't remember. He's the least interesting of them all to me. But basically, they come together, and when they come together by utilizing a mother box, they can switch places with the Infinity Man. And the Infinity Man is super powerful. Again, can do whatever. He'll fire rays and punch guys and everything. That's why Captain Marvel, when he shows up and they're fighting, is I think we've gotten something else in common, because again, they're place switchers, So I love the Forever People, and the best way to enjoy them is within the confines of Jack Kirby's Fourth World, the original stuff. But I'm always very, very happy when they show up. That's it, right? Mark Moonrider.
That's it. Infinity Man is kind of like Psychic Voltron.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
He's definitely able to hold his own there.
But also, much like Rick Jones, they physically trade places with him. Like when Rick Jones was Marvel's Captain Marvel, and he had to go to the negative zone and that shit. I don't remember what it's called. It's like Infinity Island or some crap. And actually, their original series ends, and they're shanghaied on the island. I don't know what was going to happen to them. I know it was going to be great because Jack Kirby was going to do it.
Yeah.
I like how when we open Action 675, that Brainiac's literally twirling his mustache.
Oh, that's beautiful.
His villain game is strong.
It is.
In case you had missed that he is the bad guy, he's literally twirling his mustache. I like the closing page of actually the closing pages of each of these issues is really pretty good. I mean, you don't necessarily see that all the time, but like each issue is like really, whoa, something crazy or exciting is happening. I really got to get to the next. And the closing page has got a big heroes together shot where you're like, I definitely want to get into the next one. I feel like Metron is a little jealous of Double X when Double X just kind of shows up driving the chair around.
Yeah.
I mean, I get that Metron's like, hey, just driving my chair around. Double X, God, I can do a lot of stuff. Yeah.
There's a Metron. It seems okay. Metron seems to be like there's a couple moments in this book where the stuff that he does just stands out to me, and they specifically made a point to be like, Metron never laughs. And there's a point where he laughs and they're like, I mean, it was a big deal. So apparently I assume he's pretty emotionless usually.
He's very stoic most of the time. Yeah. Like
it's kind of like Spock, but evil. So kind of like Mirror Universe Spock is kind of what Metron is like.
Okay.
I don't think he's as evil as Mirror Universe Spock.
No,
but he's
probably not.
He's somewhere between Spock and Mirror Universe Spock, though. He's very
between the two.
He's definitely
not quite as good as the good one, and not quite as bad as the bad one.
He's definitely like on a Dungeons and Dragons alignment scale, lawful neutral. He has this code, and it is like the accumulation of knowledge, and whatever he has to do that's whatever. And that's why when he gets emotionally involved in something, it's frightening. It would be frightening if he was mad, if he was happy, or the idea that he wants any kind of vengeance. That's wild. And I really like that part. That really gets over Metron. But you're right, Matt. He is jealous. He's always like, I can't imagine a mind could control my chair. It's like when I figured out like Lazy Boy as a kid, right? Like, oh man, how did you get that chair to recline? I'm like, there's the fucking lever, bro. So anyhow, so I just feel like he's just mad. I feel like he's just, he is jealous that somebody actually is playing with his toy.
Mm-hmm. I didn't send you the chair to use it.
Right. It's a message. Why are you sitting on a message?
Oh man, I mean he does, and Double X does some stuff with that chair too. Like he's teleporting Brainiac's ship into the middle of Warworld, which I think that's a pretty big deal. He's Double X is like one of the unsung heroes, I would say, of this. I mean, he's definitely, I'll sing his praise. He's definitely showing his stuff here for a character that I don't know much about. I was like, this dude's doing some stuff. Matt, tell me what you think of Superman, the Man of Steel's issue number 10 cover there. That's one of the crisis allusions that I was pointing to earlier. What do you think?
Right. I think that's one that you got to do a callback to from time to time. And it definitely lets you know kind of what's happening, some of the feelings that they're going to try to evoke with it. And I think it's a solid piece. I mean, it doesn't necessarily surpass the original, but the covers on this series, I think are good throughout. And I think that's a good one. It kind of lets you know that, there's an emotional turnout for this character who kind of started out as a bad guy and basically makes his face turn over the course of the series, and the Supergirl ends up mourning him. So, I mean, maybe it's a spoiler a little bit to put that on the cover, but I think it's nicely done and a good place for an homage.
Supergirl obviously in Crisis, Supergirl's on the other end of this. Of course, it's not Supergirl here, but that's what definitely what stands out to me. The fact that it's now Supergirl holding a fallen hero instead. It's a neat cover. For a second when I saw this cover, I was like, did I miss something? Like, were all these somehow secretly tied to Crisis in some way? And then I went back and I was like, no, that's not the case. But this one made me sit there. And then the one with I think what doubled that up was I don't know if it's this next issue after this one or the one where it's the final, I'm pretty sure, where all the skeletons are and all the heroes are skeletons. And that one made me go, okay, there's something here, but that's not the case.
I think you're right. There's definitely some echoes of Crisis, even if it's not a 1-for-1. So, and I do think, with Draga, I think there are some wrestling that we've kind of mentioned throughout the thing, but Draga has a face turn in the middle of this thing. Maxima also switches sides. Then, when everybody's mind controlled and turns on Superman, that's sort of like the point in the Royal Rumble where everybody wants to, get
out the big guy.
Giant.
Right.
So I think there are some interesting wrestling allusions you can make if you're a fan of both mediums.
I agree. All right, Dean, what do you got here, man, for these three?
All right, well, first off, I think this started actually in the last three, but I want to mention it. When Superman's talking to the assembled heroes, I noticed he's hovering up there. It's a lot easier to get everybody's attention and make everybody listen if you could just hover in the air, right?
Yeah, when you're
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah,
Like, so,
easy.
but like that leads right into the next issues where like you get to see very quickly. One of the things they do very quickly is get over what everybody can do. Like and they get over who everybody is. Guy Gardner, asshole. Captain Marvel, kid-like. Mr. Miracle, trap guy. Like they get this stuff over. Everybody gets very early on. If the assembled heroes are all getting like their little chance to shine. And I really like that the interaction between everybody, like everybody's like, Guy Gardner, shut up. You know, Captain Marvel's just amazed to be a part of everything. And these little bits of character, Wonder Woman doesn't really want to fight necessarily if she doesn't have to. And all of these little scenes just do a really good job of bringing, I think for a long time, when I say, you know, it brings DC together as a universe, which is, I think, something that historically DC's always had more trouble with than Marvel. Probably because Marvel's just like decided this is all one big timeline, jerks. We're just doing this and we split things wherever, at least until the last few years. But DC didn't really neatly put stuff together. Then they did Crisis and things didn't neatly come together. It's weird because early on in the Marvel universe, you're like, here's Dr. Doom, a Marvel universe villain, and this kind of thing. DC didn't really have that for me for you know, but this is the beginning after Crisis where you can see that really starting to come together. I really enjoy them splitting into teams. That made a lot of sense. And like Matt said, these covers are all great. Obviously, they were great because they got me, a guy who didn't really care a lot about Superman, who wasn't into DC Comics, was barely getting into the Marvel guys. Like, I picked it up and flipped through it. I love the scene where the guys are rappelling out of the bug. I was intrigued immediately. I think one of the things I really like about this series, and this happens throughout these 3 issues, is Captain Marvel is treated extraordinarily well for a Superman story. As a general rule, for whatever reason, historical enmity, just different people's takes, you got to get your flagship guy over. A lot of times when Captain Marvel shows up in a Superman story, they either fight and Superman wins, or Captain Marvel looks like a bozo and Superman has to save him. But here, he's treated as like arguably the second biggest gun. He never gets mind controlled. He stands side by, like, when the Forever people are in trouble, he goes in there and he's like, hey, everybody, I can handle this monster society, which is another callback. There's a lot of callbacks in here. Whereas This is a callback to one of the original multi-parters in superhero comics, a 25-part epic in the Golden Age where Captain Marvel fought the monster society of evil. And he wades in there, and then there's a bunch of them. And I love how he's not like, oh man, I don't know if I can handle it. He's like, this might take me a while. It's not even like, he feels like he can't do it. He's like, oh, this is going to take longer than I thought. Then we get to see the Infinity Man. We get that neat, back and forth. We also get the cool, I mentioned this, y'all, there's a pose where Captain Marvel has like one arm on his hip and he's like lifting a guy up, which is a historical Captain Marvel look. Like he's almost always doing that to Dr. Sivana, his bad guy. Can't go wrong with any of the action here. The pacing is tremendous. You really get into the will they or won't they with like, will she let Supergirl go? Is this a good enough point? Later on, when Max is making her face turn, you're like, will they just accept her? Supergirl's going to argue about it. I think it was a little confusing, though, when, like, Supergirl took Draga's, like, form. I was like, wait, I remember, like, when I read this the first time, I had to go back and flip because I was like, that guy's dead. Oh, wait. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But, like, I knew it all this time, so it was pretty good. I like Matt said, this is a great page turner, a great next issuer. You get to the end of it, you're ready for the next one. I do question the last page, though, where they have those, like, flattened 4-way brain suckers on their heads. Because, like, Deathstroke's got a hood. Like, Rocket Red has a helmet. Like, Booster Gold has this thing. I'm sure Brainiac thought of that, but, like, I would have liked to have seen one of them fight that off on their own for some cool little reason like that. Maybe the Flash could have had, like, a big metabolism, so his just wore off, whatever. I also think it's really neat how, like, as far as some of their bigger guns here, you don't see, like, much of the Flash or Wonder Woman. They're there.
Right.
But, like, you don't see a ton of them. And that's interesting. And I'm always a big fan of Largand. I love him as Valor. I love him in the Legion. My friend had all of his dad's old Silver Age comics. And in 7th grade, I actually read the original, like, first appearance of Largand, where him and Superboy are, like, playing fucking space baseball and stuff. It's beautiful. And, and he's vulnerable to lead, which kryptonite shields him and goes to the Phantom Zone. I love any incarnation of this character. Classic look. And I love later where he's all hot-headed. He's like, I could get through that shield. I could get through it. And you know what? I believe that he could. And if he had, he'd have ripped those brain suckers right off Brainiac. And those are pretty much my feelings on it. Superman obviously is cool. And I think they do a great job of getting Superman over as, like we talked earlier, the leader of the DC universe. And I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but this is right after the blah ha 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 Justice League. And they're really trying, every time somebody's smarting off, they're like, cut that out. Quit that. No quips. And I wonder if part of that was because Justice League was getting revamped. A lot of these characters were going to be in that Justice League. And I wonder, and Dan Jurgens, who worked on this, was going to work on this Justice League. And I wonder if they wanted to get that vibe over here because that book would probably get some readers from this crossover because it was done well and some people would fall in love with those characters. I want to ask y'all a question about this now. Who isn't here that you think should have been here? The DC universe, even on Earth, pretty big. So, like, who should have been in this group that you don't get to see? I got a couple guys, but I'll start with you, Jesse. Do you got a couple guys that you think maybe should have been either on the Earth or space team?
I think I have a better handle on street level heroes in the DC universe. So, right. In early 90s DC, my goodness, I could throw out a bunch of people street level wise. Like I think Huntress is doing some stuff in DC at this point, right? So I'll go ahead and throw her out.
The Justice League at this time too. So
I'll go ahead and throw her out there. Nightwing like shows up for a cup of coffee. Like I see him in I don't even remember him saying anything, but he's there, right? Nightwing is there.
Yeah, he chats a little with Batman.
Okay, do we have any?
Who is the nicest Batman we've ever seen in the DC universe up to this point?
Well,
he's pretty nice guy for Batman.
Yeah. Were there any other Teen Titans or anything like that, other than Nightwing? I mean, I didn't see any other. Like Cyborg wasn't there.
No, otherwise,
okay.
Titans related.
I mean, I'll throw those out there. That's about the extent of my DC knowledge when it comes to that, so I won't embarrass myself anymore. But when I was reading DC comics at some point in the late 80s, early 90s, most of who I've seen in this comic book was it's Batman. I was reading Detective Comics, a little bit of Detective Comics. I was picking up Man of Steel every once in a while. Huntress was one I was picking up. And then I'm not going to say Ragman should have been in there because I think I would.
I'd have loved it.
But Ragman. But no. Anyway, Matt, I'll throw it to you, man. What's your answer?
It's more of a sci-fi adventure. So you have the mystical guys. You don't really, Spectre, Phantom Stranger, Constantine wouldn't really have been in maybe DCU at this point, but those guys are not really involved because it's not really their kind of show.
Yeah, Dr. Fate's there, but they don't do much.
Yeah, Dr. Fate's the only really mystical person I think shows up, and I think it's the female Dr. Fate who I think was in Justice League at that point.
Yeah, it's Enza Nelson who had been in the JLI.
The couple people I don't remember seeing was Starman, and I don't know if it was Will Payton Starman, and he might have been dead at this point. And
Will Payton's in it.
Is he in it? Okay, and I don't.
Yeah, but he has no lines. He just gets mind controlled and is in an assemblage. He doesn't do anything.
Does Martian Manhunter show up anywhere?
No. I don't know. They I think they mentioned Martian Manhunter in the book, I believe, but he's not there.
He's unavailable. Those were the biggest people I didn't remember seeing. But I mean, a lot of the space guys, I guess maybe like Adam Strange, maybe he was off on Ran,
Yeah.
For the most part, most of sort of the sci-fi space guys get in there. I mean, you only have Guy as far as Green Lanterns, but I don't remember the status.
Oh, Kilowog's in there too.
Kilowog.
Yeah.
I don't remember the status of who's what at this point and who's on Earth. Like, is John Stewart on Earth at this point? I don't remember.
I think he's Mosaic right now.
So, yeah, I think you get a pretty good mix of flavors. Who's it that you feel like maybe got left out?
Nobody got left out. There's plenty of guys here. It's just interesting to not see. Like Jesse said, it's weird you don't see Starfire. Like Nightwing's there, and she's like a space princess. Yeah. It's weird to me that you don't see Captain Atom, who was like very involved with the Justice League International at that time, and also a very powerful guy. A pair who could have bridged the gap between the space and the Earth crew would have been Hawkman and Hawkwoman as well. Who and we don't see them. It would have been very interesting to see them at the time. I mean, again, there's no glaring omissions. Like you said, like it would have been cool to see Adam Strange. Absolutely, I would have liked to have seen some of the Vertigo guys because Vertigo hadn't started yet, and they were still playing fast and loose with it. Like it would have been cool to see like Swamp Thing show up and like swallow a bunch of like guys on the Earth team, or Animal Man be totally lost in space. But like, you don't miss anybody. It's just like these guys could have been there and they weren't. Another thing I would ask y'all is anybody on the wrong team? I think the Earth team is totally correct, but I feel like it's undergunned. Like, they should have left Guardian and Agent Liberty on Earth. Why are they in space? Like, Agent Liberty has guns and a jetpack. That would have been much more useful on the Earth team. They got lots of guys. The Guardian's like, oh, I'll go to space. I've got a shield. Bro, they got techno shields in space.
What do you think you're getting into, man?
But is there anybody who you think should have switched teams? Like, for me, those are the two. Matt, do you have anything about that?
I think those are probably good notes. I mean, I'm surprised they got Batman to stay on Earth. Usually Batman goes wherever the action is happening regardless. But as you said,
this time they were playing this weird thing that he was scared of space.
Are you serious?
You what?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. At this time, they were playing some weird thing that Batman didn't like to go into space. Because in JLA Titans, he asked Nightwing not to go into space anymore.
This is like a B.A. Baracus kind of thing.
Yeah,
they got to knock him out.
Don't make Batman go into space.
I got to knock him out. And the next thing you know, he's waking up on the shuttle. He's like, what am I doing here?
I think they are probably pretty well seated. I think you probably could move a couple people around to give. There are people do feel a little undergunned. It's like they could have maybe used a little more help. I mean, everybody gets to kind of do cool stuff for the most part.
Yeah.
So I feel like, that's kind of, I guess, my measurement. If like, oh, they took this guy and he didn't really get to do anything cool, but almost everybody gets to kind of have a moment to be cool, which is, I think, one of the things that's good about the series.
I agree. I agree totally. What about you, Jesse? Would you swap anybody?
Obviously, what I would probably send out to space are the heavy hitters: Superman, Captain Marvel, Guy Gardner. As annoying as he is, obviously that's the way he's supposed to be portrayed. He's definitely a big part of what happens in this book, and he's a heavy hitter. He's a heavy hitter. And Deathstroke's an interesting choice, but like Superman said, he justified that. He's like, I need a tactician. I need somebody that can do, can take care of things. And he's one of the guys that's leading the team that infiltrates Warworld at the beginning, that gets separated from the rest of them. So
he's an urban warfare tactical expert, and also, has a Wolverine-esque healing factor. Although at one point he pretends like he's like, I gotta kill him because I'm not like you, Wonder Woman. But he's a little more superpowered than he was letting on at that moment. He's a lot like Captain America meets Wolverine, to be honest. Like the way, when you think about him.
No one seems definitely overpowered when it comes to defending Metropolis here. I mean, most of what we get in that team. Let me read that roster off that I had there earlier. So we had Crimson Fox, which I know nothing about.
She's cool.
Absolutely nothing about. Is she French or German? I know she had an accent.
She's French, and there are two of her.
Okay. All right. Blue Beetle, I don't know if I'm sending him out into space with the rest of the team. I mean, he's a tech savvy dude, but I don't think I'm sending him to space. Aquaman.
His bug's so useful,
Right. Nightwing, I'm not. Thorn. So help me out here. Who's Thorn? Because I get Poison Ivy vibe, but I don't. I have no idea. Who is Thorn?
No, well, I mean, the series was called Rose and Thorn. And as I recall, when it first started out, like, Rose was just like kind of a prim, proper girl, and she would go to sleep and then wake up and become Thorn, who would go out and do vigilante stuff, and maybe she didn't know she was doing it. I don't know if that stayed the concept the whole time, but I mean, I think she basically punches people. I'm not sure there are superpowers involved beyond that. Okay. I would have to reference to make sure, but I think it's more of a hand-to-hand fighter than something super, like, blasty or anything.
Well, again,
I think the most important part of her mythos is that, like, she appeared in backups in Lois Lane, and that's where like the 100 come from.
Okay. Well, definitely street level there, and Gangbuster. I don't know if you can get any more street level than that. I mean, the Metropolis street team headed by Batman is perfectly fine. Just leave them where they're at. Don't send them into space. One of them's going to die. Blue Beetle probably. Well, Batman aside, I mean, Batman's pretty smart, but Blue Beetle, I might give him some higher odds than the rest of the team to survive.
Aquaman to do okay. Space and the ocean pretty similar.
Oh, sure. Yeah. There. Lots of water out there.
Not the water part, but like used to dealing with pressure, and he punches stuff.
Oh, okay. So you're actually making a legitimate argument. All right,
yeah. Like, you're right. Like, there better be a shower on this ship, but like, as far as like dealing with the pressures of space and stuff like that, it doesn't seem like, he would be able to handle a decent amount of it.
This is like, okay, this version of Aquaman is very much the Super Friends Aquaman to me. It looks like it anyway to me. Things are going to change for this guy pretty soon after this, right? Like, he looks like the quintessential Aquaman that I used to know from, like, almost from
somebody
Bronze
you
Age.
used to know.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
just the super friend you used to know.
That's right.
Yeah, I think it's a year or two later he loses his hand and goes more piratey.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, he becomes Tarzan of the ocean. I like the Metal Men. Cool to see them.
Oh yeah, the Metal Men showing up here.
You didn't see the Metal Men a lot around this time, so it's really cool that they got in on this.
Kilowog trounce them, and they're all like, and some of them are in puddles. It's not good. But
like that's their role. They're the crash test dummies of superheroes. Like
right.
That's their whole thing. They get torn apart. They get better. It's lovely. I love them. Oh, the other guy who I would have liked to have seen on the Earth team who didn't show up, and it's because he was just going from mature readers to back to the DC universe, is Green Arrow. I think it would have been really cool to see Green Arrow there.
Oh yeah, that would have fit well, really well.
Yeah.
All right.
On the Earth team, sure.
Yeah, on the Earth team. Yeah, absolutely.
Sixth Strike takes place in Superman number 66, cover dated April of 1992, with a story called Our Army at War. Art and story by Dan Jurgens, finished art by Brett Breeding, lettered by John Costanza, and colors by Glenn Whitmore. Our epilogue takes place in Adventures of Superman number 489, cover dated April of 1992. The story titled Hail the Conquering Heroes. Penciled by Tom Grummett, inked by Doug Hazelwood, Jerry Ordway, the writer, Glenn Whitmore, colorist, Albert de Guzman, letterer. As the team of heroes plot their next move, Brainiac, with the help of Warworld systems, unleashes a massive psychic assault, debilitating most of Superman's forces and a big portion of Warworld's citizens as well. Brainiac also unleashes an energy grid upon Metropolis in order to shrink it, even though Superman told Guy Gardner not to let Maxima out of his sight as they cannot trust her. Remember, she switched teams, but they cannot. Superman's like, no, you're not going out on any mission with us. You're not attacking Brainiac. You're going to stay right here until we can talk later. And says, Guy Gardner, why don't you watch her? To which Guy Gardner is all about it until she's like, what are you taking orders from Superman now? And he's like, you're free to go.
You wonder why it's taken her so long to find someone to mate with her when she manipulates men so well.
Yeah, it's a little on the nose, if you ask me.
Right.
I can tell what you're doing here, lady.
Yeah, but Guy can't. So
yeah, Guy's an idiot. Gosh, he's an idiot.
We love
So anyway, so he tells Guy Gardner, do not let Maxima out of your sight. She convinces Guy not to listen to Superman, so she ends up joining the fight anyway. The closer Superman and his team get to Brainiac, the heavier the psychic assault. However, Maxima is able to break through Brainiac's chamber. The Flash awakens or just gets up enough to throw a shard of glass, disconnecting Brainiac from controlling Warworld and stopping the threat to Metropolis. This also allows Maxima to use her psychic powers to attack Brainiac. With the psychic attack abated, Superman arrives just in time to stop Maxima from killing Brainiac, but realizes there's not much left of Brainiac's mind as he appears to be nearly lobotomized. In our epilogue, it is decided that Metron will take Brainiac back with him to New Genesis. So Brainiac's just this, like, practically a lifeless husk here. He's there, but he's not there. Metron's going to take him back to New Genesis. Orion and Lightray will stay on Warworld to help lead its citizens and guide Warworld back into space while Superman and the heroes return to Earth. Back in Metropolis, a parade is thrown by Lex Luthor 2, where Superman makes a speech about the importance of working together as heroes to face challenges that come their way. And that, my friends, is Panic in the Sky. I won't go into the whole Husk and Emil Hamilton, Professor Hamilton thing. That takes place in this final issue, and it is a good part of it. Obviously, it's setting up a next story, but it really doesn't factor a whole lot in here to Panic in the Sky. So if you want to check that out, go find the issue and read it. Hey,
to read first.
You do that. Jimmy Olsen gets his job back at the Daily Planet, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Jimmy Olsen has returned to the Daily Planet. All right, good job, Jimmy. Oh, hey, you know what? I forgot the stinger. The stinger of all this, at the end of that second to last issue, just as Maxima is unleashing this assault on Brainiac, he's able to lift his hand up and pull a lever, and a small orb drops out of Warworld. And that's it. I mean, we don't have any idea what that is. Doesn't show up in the epilogue. There's not anything that. What could it be? We don't know. There's no knowledge bestowed upon us here in Panic in the Sky. Other than that, that was grab the lever. You know what it is? I'm sure.
It's you know how when people move, there's that pod service they can have.
Okay.
Like they load their stuff in the pod and then they take it. That's what it is. Brainiac was moving.
He was
want to get his stuff to where it was.
Last resort is the pod lever. Okay.
I bet that's not it.
All right then. That was Panic in the Sky. Dean, we'll start with you, buddy. What do you think of these sixth strike epilogue? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I really enjoy how they wrap it up. I wonder what, it's funny to think that like News Time is apparently like such a company lush with cash. Must be selling like 30 trillion copies a week because they send a single photographer in a helicopter to go take pictures of stuff. One photographer. That seems like a lot of. I know it's Panic in the Sky, or as I always say it in my head, like Panic in the Sky. But like that seems cost prohibitive, if you ask me.
Well, I know exactly where News Time is getting that money. It is distribution and printing off and getting out those anarchist pamphlets. He apparently picked. Anarchy's got his fingers in News Time.
Probably. Way to go, Lonnie Macklin. I think it's great that like it's a Superman book, but Superman doesn't necessarily save the day, and I think that's important. Normally that would be bad, but a big portion of I think this series, the story was to get Superman over as a leader, a role model, an icon of the DC universe. And so if the team he assembles makes the right decision and gets the job done, then great work. So Maxima, the Metal Men, and Guy Gardner managed to save the day. It was pretty cool to see like Guy Gardner's like hammer do the maze thing. Like it's like Tron or something. It was really cool. I enjoy the part of the epilogue where like everybody boom tubes down. I like the part at the end where Captain Marvel and Superman shake hands. And he's like, "You did great." It's like, "It's great being with you." I really, really am into the Flash, like throwing that shard. Where did he learn to ninja? I respect it. Don't get me wrong. But like, wow, what a perfect throw. It really wraps everything up nicely. You get a cool speech from Superman, reinforcing that Superman is like the coolest and best dude of all time. Just really nice guy who wanted to do the right thing, and he's really happy he was there to do so. And you get a little bit of, I think this is a little foreshadowing, like, oh, Luthor had all this ready to go, huh? So I really like that. I like how Jimmy Olsen gets his job back, and it's all a lot of fun. Everything wraps up neatly in a great way. Everybody gets their moment. And again, I think it's cool that it's other people who beat Brainiac who wind up, making that happen. I, too, want to know what was in that pod. I don't know off the top of my head, but that was a cool little foreshadowing. There's nothing wrong with this. This is exactly how it should have wrapped up. They really nailed everything.
All good stuff, really. I think it closes up nicely. It's good to know Maxima has super shave powers so that she can shave any supervillain that may come into her path.
Super shave powers.
She needs to get a per inquiry commercial like the Manscaped people.
She's fighting Brainiac. He has a beard. She zaps him, and he's clean shaven. So,
man, I was gonna say that was one hell of a psychic assault. Beat him so bad his beard fell off.
Yep. I like them using the Our Army at War title, throwback to the Sergeant Rock stuff.
Right.
It was a little weird to see Batman using the laser guns. Maybe laser guns are okay. He doesn't necessarily like other guns. Laser guns he's okay with. That was a little different. But good, really. I mean, I think it's a good close. It gets you. It wraps it up nicely, I think. And like you said, Superman himself doesn't have to do the final punch, but he's assembled the team that allows his team to win. And I think that's important to reestablish him as a leader in the DC universe. So that's anyway. Yeah, I liked it.
You got a point there with Superman not having to do the final punch, because this is a brutal way for Brainiac to kind of meet the finale of this story. Superman is not going to lobotomize Brainiac. That's probably not.
No, he's just going to give him to Metron.
yeah. It's like, brain or not, here you go, Metron. Deal with this guy. Maxima is the one that is able to pull the trigger of that gun. She's the one, and that kind of makes you at least gives it some legitimacy. Like, this other baddie took out this other baddie, and maybe we know Brainiac's going to come back at some point, but maybe just now Brainiac's hurting. I mean, he's definitely hurting, and it wasn't in the hands of Superman to do that. It was Maxima that did it. Which I appreciate the story for going that route. Yeah, man, I enjoyed this story. This was a lot of fun. You mentioned, like, was there some people missing? We talked about that already, but I think they made obviously a specific or a special point to try and keep the amount of people down, to not make the story feel so overburdened with, oh, who's that guy? Who's that guy? Who's that guy? What are they doing?
Right.
Why aren't they doing this? It's told well. One of you, Dean, you already mentioned it, but I think Matt may have mentioned it in the chat as well. Everybody is on point. Yeah, I get that. I get that for sure, that this is the people that are here, they're here, and it feels like they have a reason for being here, and I understand why and what they could do.
Do you think that, like, Orion should be the leader of, like, anything? He's sort of an asshole.
He is a hothead.
He's not very, like, he's like, hey, I'll just take this over. It's very reminiscent of, like, when, obviously this is a bit of a stretch, and I don't mean to be, too offensive to anybody or whatever, but, like, it's like when, like, MacArthur was in charge of Japan. You're just going to put a general, like in charge of this thing? It's kind of, I guess it worked out okay in that instance, but I don't think Orion can handle, like, the diverse cultures of Warworld. I don't know. That might, I meant to say that earlier. That might not have been the best choice.
Did Superman have the opportunity? Stop him?
You know what I mean? Orion, he's fairly fresh. Superman's kind of down. He could give Superman a run for his money when they're both, fully powered. Maybe if Superman's down a little, he could just punch him and, like, win. I don't know. Probably not. But
I don't know.
Who was going to tell him no? Everybody's tired. Let's go home.
If I'm criticizing anything, it's Superman for making a couple bad decisions here at the end of this story. It's like, well, Orion, you're good to go for Warworld. Metron, the guy the guy that's got the major mental, go ahead and take care of that guy. All right. I mean, now one of you guys mentioned about how this wasn't primarily, it was rare to see Superman palling around with a bunch of teams during this time. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't think there have been a ton of, after Man of Steel. I mean, you saw him in Legends.
Right. Millennium.
But I don't think there were a ton. There certainly weren't a ton in the Superman books.
No.
Batman showed up for a crossover. But as far as him interacting with the larger DC universe, they asked him to stay. I think the Superman office asked him to not be involved in Justice League, and that's where you get the Bwahaha Justice League,
right?
Where he pops in from time to time, but he's not a regular cast member. So I don't think there's a lot of stories between, say, 87 and 91. I guess only 3 or 4 years where he's seen as much as the leader of a DC universe, task force or whatever. Other than Legends, you have in that time frame.
Well, even in Invasion, they make it a point to make Captain Atom the guy in charge,
right?
And Millennium, really the Green Lanterns are running the show. Like with Armageddon 2001, like that wasn't really a crossover of sorts. Everybody kind of did their own thing in their own annual, and then with Eclipso, he's gone for most of it.
Right. And War of the Gods, I actually don't remember how that plays out, but
it's Wonder Woman's show.
Yeah, but this is one of the few times between, say, Man of Steel and Death of Superman, I guess, where Superman's like, hey, I'm the guy, everybody rally around me. He reforms the Justice League shortly after this, like you were saying, and it's a Jurgens era. So I guess you could say at that point he's kind of reestablished himself as a leader when that Jurgens era Justice League kicks in.
I think they realized that whatever benefits that they got from keeping Superman more insular, it wasn't worth the costs. Because, like, if you're having a shared universe and one guy is almost inarguably the face of said universe, because it's Superman or Batman, and you can make whichever argument you want, but, like, it's obviously one of the two, they can't just be fairly insular. It's just not going to work. Just like in the Marvel Universe, you can't be like, hey, time for Spider-Man to just do his own thing. Let's keep Spider-Man out of the crossovers. And sometimes that means Spider-Man's been places he might not should have, but it almost always makes for a good time because it makes it feel like it's part of that universe. Once they got Superman over here, it really congealed this universe in a way for me that I really loved going forward, that made me love Zero Hour and The Final Night and DC 1 Million in a way that I did not enjoy when I've read DC crossovers before this.
I think having Superman at the center of the crossovers makes the crossovers better.
Agreed.
I guess if you want to argue, does it make the Superman books better and does it make the Justice League book better? Most of the time, I think yes. I think maybe having a bunch of other people pop in Superman books can get kind of confusing. And I actually think they did a great job with the Bwahaha League without him. But I think it does, if you're going to do big, epic crossovers, and well, how are you going to keep Superman out of it without making it seem weird? Like, why wouldn't he be there?
Right. It makes perfect sense.
I'll read the words of Superman here, and then you guys can feel free to hop in here, and then or we can close up shop, however you want to do it. But as he's giving his speech, Lex gives him the podium. He says, "I guess all I can say is that thanks to a team effort, we've defeated a menace who threatened our very existence. In the past, I'd always preferred to work alone, but this experience has made me rethink things. Working with these other dedicated folks has shown me that teamwork is a necessity when you're up against a menace more powerful than yourself." So now it says here with the Justice League gone. So yeah, we're at a point where the Justice League isn't existing. You guys
there was
had
just
mentioned.
a crossover in their books called Breakdowns.
Right.
And the end result was like they lost their United Nations status. And I think Maxwell Lord is dead, but then not dead, and fixes it towards the end. But at this point, there's effectively no Justice League.
There is a void that needs to be filled. This time out, we have filled that void, but tomorrow, that's a topic for another day.
I was just thinking, who else should have been on the Earth team?
Tell me, Gene.
The guy from the Carnage concert in Madison Square Garden pulled out that night, ready to fight. He was ready to go. I mean, you got to have him on the team, baby.
Put him on the team.
I'm on the team.
Man.
What do you care if the Warworld guys get stabbed?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you do not go back into the archives and listen to these episodes, understand these inside jokes. I'm number one, I guess I apologize. Number two, you better get on it. Well, let's go ahead. We'll get into plugs. Matt, man, thank you very much for coming in here and hanging out with us. I hope you get to make it back on some more shows. Why don't you go ahead and plug some things? I know you got some things going on there.
Sure. Well, I'm at my shop, Speeding Bullet Comics, right now. We sell some stuff on eBay, Speeding Bullet, or, if you're in Norman, Oklahoma, come on by. We're at 614 North Border in Norman. And we do have a website, speedingbulletcomics.com, although I'm not trying real hard to sell you things there, but it is there. You can visit us on Facebook. It's just facebook.com/speedingbullet. We'd love to chat with you if you want to chat with us there. You can follow a lot of my writing at matthewlprice.com, which rounds up most of my columns for the Oklahoman and occasional other stuff I do in film or comics or whatever else I've got going on at the moment. And I guess that probably covers it. Yeah. So those are the high points right now.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, man. Dean Compton, The Unspoken Decade. Tell us all about it.
All right, man. Well, unspokendecade.com is where you can find a lot of blogs. Here's the part where I say I'm going to write something soon, but I'm not. So don't fall for that. I plan to. I'd like to, but I just hurt my wrist. How am I going to do that? That's a shoot, too. I did just hurt my wrist. But we are there. Simby Fan just did an article about the Toxic Avenger, the Marvel series from the early 90s. He's got that going. I post a lot of comic book stuff, a lot of 90s stuff over at Twitter. That's at Unspoken Decade. We're on Facebook. Just search for the Unspoken Decade. If you find any of this stuff interesting, send me an inbox. I'll send you more pictures. You can ask these guys. I love to send people pictures of comic books. So those are really the plugs there, man. What a great time! What a great time.
That's right. Listen, aside from Unspoken Issues, which is, you can find that on Facebook, the Unspoken Issues podcast Facebook page. You can come on there, interact with us. We do polls every once in a while. We let you pick the book every once in a while that we're going to cover. That's happened in the past. Just recently, we dropped Extreme Justice #0, where Chris Armstrong and myself took a look at that issue. Get ready.
On Zero, right?
Yeah. Get ready. That's
actually I like them.
That was Booster Gold's costume rating was 0. Listen, this is going to be airing after this, but we recorded this probably about a week ago. Chris Armstrong and myself sat down to celebrate the 30th anniversary of Image Comics, and we looked at all 7 founders, their #1 books when Image Comics launched. Well, I should say their launch titles, because Wilson unfortunately didn't get. He got in there a little bit late. But look, we ranked them. 4-hour podcast, but guess what? We chopped it down into 8 episodes, and you're probably only going to have to listen to 10, 15 minutes of us talking about each issue and how much we loved. And we're counting down, like I said, 7-1. So who's going to be #1? You'll have to tune in to find out, or go back in the archive and find it, because that was a lot of fun. And of course, I will not sleep on my Source Material Comics podcast as well. We cover just about anything on there, and we're not 90s centric. Anyway, that's it for me. Shout out to the W2M Network. And they're obviously putting the power behind this podcast. So check out that website and check out that Facebook page for W2M Network. That's it. We are out of here. For Matthew Price, for Dean Compton, I'm Jesse Starcher. This has been Unspoken Issues. Panic in the Sky has been averted thanks to Superman. We're out of here. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. Unspoken Issues is part of the UnspokenDecade.com, the home for 90s comics, blogs, and podcasts. Unspoken Issues also has a Facebook group you can join if you are interested. Just search the Unspoken Issues podcast and request to join. All of this would not be possible without W2Mnet.com and the Rattleitch Broadcasting Network, so make sure to seek them out for more podcasts. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please feel free to share, and we look forward to entertaining you again soon.